Ochek Msuva exemplifies when it comes to doing it for the kids. He is the founder and CEO of Bridge for Change, BFC, an NGO led by Tanzanian youth for Tanzanian youth that empowers young women and men to take control of their future and participate in positive change-making activities for their society and the world. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I believe you had a good time during lunch and you have heard a lot. So as I've been introduced, my name is Ochek Msuva, and we'll get to know each other as time goes on and as we speak. As we interact and get time to go through my own life experience and life of experience of other young people who I've managed to meet and be part of their story. Coming in as a third child did not prevent my father and mother getting into fight and then getting separated. I was conceived at the time when the marriage had already fallen apart. The reason was my father wanted to have a second wife, and my mom was against the idea. And when you get conceived during that time, it is obvious that the father is not going to have less trust to if he is really the father of the son to come or daughter to come. So that was my situation. My mom or my dad, both of them, didn't want to take the responsibility of raising me up. So when I was born, after 1 year and a half, my mom left me in a farmhouse. I was lucky that the community member found me. And my auntie was happy to take care of me, which was luck again. But the reason she was happy to take care of me is because, as we know in Swahili, we say, kitanda hakizai haram, meaning if you are born within the marriage, you are never busted. But growing up in a family where every day people tells you how unwanted you were before being born, that does not make you grow as a happy kid. So to make a long story short, I was rejected by my family. I dropped out from school and lived in the street. I tried to kill myself twice in my life. But with all that hardship, I had a dream of becoming someone. And the reason I had a dream of becoming someone is because the community around me was always there after me. When I went around the community, they were always supportive and courageous. So they told me, look, you're going to become a great person, despite how other people look on you. So I had that courageous community that was listening and that was supportive about my life and showing me the possibility of life. While healing myself in this journey, I managed to work as Sunday school teacher, as nursery school cooker for the school in the informal settlement. I worked as a houseboy for 2 years. During all this time, in the age of 19, I had already met with so many kids. I was a Sunday school teacher at the same time. At that time, I happened to learn a lot what kids go through. And this is the reason today I'll be here talking to you about the difference between caring and nurturing. My perspective in this is, if we first try to think about what is caring, I know most of us in this room, we might take care of animals at our home, right? Be it dogs, cat, chicken. What the reason do we take care of this? Most of the time, we feed them, we give them medicine and food, we make sure that they have the shelter to stay. But what's the difference between the animals and the kids, and other kids or other people, things that we nurture? What's the difference? That's why when you are trying to define the word caring, it's saying just taking care of something, providing, making sure that their health, their welfare, and that they are protected. And the main relationship between caring, when you are caring between the parents and the kids, is obvious. The parents are more, or the guardians, have more upper energy, have more power than the kid. So the relationship is between the one who is stronger and the other who is less stronger. The one who is wise and the other who is less wise. When we are talking about nurturing, it's a little bit vice versa. Nurturing is about, in a perspective of raising kids, when you're nurturing them, is the relationship of two people who both of them they consider are equal, and they are seeking knowledge to improve quality of life. So when you're nurturing, it's not about the one who is just providing. Caring is within the nurturing. Of course, kids would like the shelter, would like to receive all this other support. But at this point, the relationship, when you're nurturing kids, the relationship between them is not just about making sure they are sleeping or eating food or going to school. It's about making sure they have an objective, they have a dream, and they have a wish, and they see the possibility of becoming someone else in life. my auntie who took care of me was a very good person. She had a very good intention of raising me up. But growing up and being told telling me how unwanted I was, that was not nurturing me. Because what that was doing with me was harmful, was causing trauma for me getting confused. So who I am. So I hated my mom while growing up because my aunt told me that, your mom didn't want you. So when you are just caring for your kids, you are doing great. You are sending them to a good school, making sure they have clothes is a great thing. But if you are not nurturing them, you can very easily fall into the trap of causing trauma to your kids. So if you just do caring, it's very easy to harm the kids. Organizations, individuals, guardians, caregivers, and all the people who take care about kids, they can very easily just fall in the trap of caring and causing trauma to the kids. Why? Because when you define trauma, what do we think about it? Normally in our environment, in our culture, we think trauma is when death happens, when you lost the most loved one, or when an accident happens. But actually trauma is an emotion that you do not understand. You cannot really understand what is going on. So when you are failing to do that, you are confused. And when you are confused, in the end of the result, things does not go, you get stressed. So kids go through this so many times when the parents are focusing just on caring. When you are just sending them to school and not having a time to make sure they understand the reason they go to school, at that point, you cause trauma to your kids. And that is not a good thing for kids. What kids need is not caring, is nurturing. When you are nurturing, you'll be able to understand and give them reason to why they should go to school. In the morning when you wake up and your kid is saying, I don't want to go to school, and you just tell them, you have to go to school because necessarily I'm paying for your school fees. That, you don't know, that can cause a harm and damage to your kid because you're not giving them a reason to why they should go to school. So they are going to school to grow now. And they are going it on behalf of you instead of going on behalf of themselves. So during this time when I have been working in with different people and the young people who I have met, I have learned that actually there are few traps that I have learned that parents fall into. It can be mistakes, but I call them traps because I assume a lot of parents do this without having a bad intention. They are not intending to do mistakes. And while they are doing that, the number one thing is not understanding kids. So kids have their own language. They have their own vision. They have their own dreams. We parents or guardians or caregivers, it's very easy for us to think, you know what, we know the best because we have the best knowledge. We have been in the world more than the kids anyway. But in reality, it is contrary. We need to spend time to understand them because they are complete being. They are not half. Being kid does not mean they are not human. They are complete human with a complete idea and a complete thinking. So we must spend time and build a relationship to understand them. And here I have an example. When I was working as a houseboy, it happened one day the father came back home with his son behind the car and then straight to the living room and he started slapping the kid. He slapped his son and I could hear the slaps and the feel because once I was a kid I was well beaten as well. But after a few moments, the son came back to the kitchen where I was cooking and he told me, you know what? My dad always understands a lot. The reason the dad was beating the son is because he thought his son had misused the school fees. He was being sent to a good school, and he was given money to go and pay. But instead, when he was telling me, he was like, you know what? My dad does not understand. My mom is in a village, and his life is difficult. This son grew up with his mom, and the family was separated. Likewise, my environment, similar to the environment I grew up. But for him, he grew up in school, his primary school, entire primary school with his mom. Then after, when he was going to secondary school, the father took him and sent him to a good school. But the priority of this kid was not about the good school. The priority of the kid was saving money to help his mom be in a better shape in the village. So you see, if you don't understand your kids, at the time they are playing with your diary, and you think they are just being stubborn, in reality they are trying to understand what does that color pattern mean. But for you, it is stubborn. So try to understand why they do what they do, and not just say they are not good kids or they are troublemakers. And another point is thinking kids are ignorant. So I know that when the reason we think kids are ignorant is very easy again. Kids, they want to be taught and we want to teach them. And even here from the morning we are talking about how kids are learning. And the reason you learn is because you want to improve yourself, you want to be a better person. But when you are learning new things, it doesn't mean that your brain is empty. The idea you have are complete. It's not a half idea. To you is complete idea. So they are not ignorant. They are ignorant from your perspective. But from their own perspective, it is a complete thing. When the way they understand things is in its fullest. Is not in the half perspective. They have a full perspective. When things goes on within the family setting, let's say, you have a financial crisis. So you might think that these kids don't know what is happening. So the day when you are having, every day you are eating one type of food, and when they are asking, why are we eating, the entire week we are eating rice? And your answer is, you will understand one day. You assume they are ignorant, but they know that at this point you are going through hard time. And I'll give an example. While I was teaching in a Sunday school, one day, the kids came to me and they said, Mwalim, what do you want us to play for you? The reason they asked that question is because I had a relationship with them. Every Sunday meeting with them, to me, was not about teaching them the Bible. Rather was about how can I help them navigate through their life. So we would have a conversation. Did you get beaten by your teacher? Why did that happen? Were you in a noisemaker list? Why did that happen? So we had a conversation. And next week we'll have a conversation again. We'll say, no, we were not beaten. We will play, but we'll discuss the strategy around that. If your father beaten you when you were watching TV, why that happened? Because I didn't wash the dishes. Okay, why didn't you wash your dishes? So we'll have that conversation. So this time when they were asking me, I said, okay, what do you want to pray for me? And their answer was, we want you to go back to school, to be a great teacher, to be a professor, and we want you to be a great man. At that time, I was like, wow, pray for me. So they prayed for me. But during that time, I didn't think enough, what did that mean? But today, as I'm working with young people every day, I'm realizing that the reason they told me that is because they knew everything that was happening with my life. I never spent time and told them how I felt, what I was going through, the emotion and everything. But I'm realizing they were aware that I'm out of school, I'm dropout. I'm realizing they were aware that in that community setting, I was a more small person who people looks on me not as that great person. So you see, they are not ignorant. They are aware with every circumstance, with everything that goes. They notice, they observe, they ask a question, and sometimes they don't get chance to ask you, but they have an understanding and they have a knowledge about what is happening. So you should be building the relationship with them, not as people who are not equal with you, but as equal, that people who can help you build your emotion and improve yourself as well. And another point that we're going to talk about is limiting kids' freedom. This also is a trap. If you think what we always tell kids, I have seen how kids are always told, stop that, don't do that, don't go to that house, don't talk to this person, don't listen to strangers. The goal is good, the intention is good. But that does not mean it's good for the kids. Because at this point, you are deciding for them. You are limiting their freedom in making their own decision into things. What you want to do is not just telling them, don't do this. Don't eat to the neighbor's house. Probably, you want to be smart enough and sit with your kid and say, kid, you know what? How many people are in our neighbor's room? There are 5, okay? Or 5 or 3, whatever the kids will say. Then you go to the next question. So when they are preparing food for how many people? 4. So think about it. If you go and eat, it means you are eating Anna's portion. Do you want to eat Anna's portion? Do you want Anna to be not satisfied with his food? And probably she's going to say, no, I would not like that to happen. You can go further with that conversation. How if someone came and eat food in your plate? Would you feel okay? Then she might say, actually not. Or she might say, yes. You are giving her a reason to make a decision, not to obey unto your command. So instead of just commanding them, can you create a room for accountability measures to the kids and the fact-checking, for them to question and to understand the reason they are acting the way they act? So if we just limit our kids' freedom, we make them sometimes a liar. And I know when you're kids, people expect you to be a liar. But the reason you are a liar is because you are not trusted enough. And they are not fact-checking. They are just being told you are wrong. And I'll give an example of myself. When I was growing up, I was a very good liar as a kid. So I started in Iringa. So when I go to school and I feel it is too cold, if I came back home and told them it's too cold, I need a sweater or a jumper, the answer would be, go back to school. And probably with some slaps and sticks in my buttocks. And I don't want that to happen. So what will I do? I'll come back home and pretend I'm sick, so that I will not be chased away to go to school again. But think about it. If they were not just chasing me to go back to school, if they were listening, giving me the freedom to make a choice, and then allowing me, listening to me enough to not just dictate terms in my life, rather than give me reason to why I should go to school. And the reason I was going back to school is because some of my teachers knew the situation at home, and they would always say, you are a very great kid. And them telling me I'm a great kid, yeah. Even the time when I stay home, I'll remember I want to go to school again. And as a result, I'm here today. Even after going out of the school, driving in a street, I still managed to go back to school. And the reason is because of this inspiration of teachers and the community members who were always giving that room of positivity and looking into things in different perspective. So, what I'm going to finish up with is, again, every individual organizations and every individual parents or guardians or government, they have great initiative around helping kids. However, most of them fall into the category of just caring. If you think about organizations that are helping street kids, and even if I asked in this room, kids in the street, what do they need? Our answer will be very easy. They need shelter. What do they need? Accommodation. What else? Clothes, food. In contrary, sometimes when you are in the street, you don't need that. You need people to listen to you. You need love, of course. You will be struggling to get your food. Some kids who are in the street, they are not in the street because at their home there's no food. They are in the street because no one has been there to listen to them enough. So let us stop just thinking kids, they need a caring, they need protection. Kid needs beyond protection. We need to start thinking, what type of future are we creating? Is it ours? If you look about us as adults, if you are in the age of 30s or 40s or 50s, you have very few years remaining. But when you look about kids, they have their today, they have their tomorrow, and they have their future. While most of us adults, probably we are finishing our future, if not our tomorrow. We are done with our life already. So if we are designing a cool program, like the discussion we are having here today, what is this for? What time do we got to make sure come to reality? Kids have that chance of making it reality. Us, we have a room of engaging with them, partnering with them. So let us stop looking into kids as a beneficiary at our homes, in our organization. Kids are not a beneficiary. They are primary partners because they are indigenous of this globe and not us. If they are indigenous, think if one day I came to your room and said, I want to help you clean your room. Can you help me clean your room? Or the conversation should be, can I assist you to clean your room? If you came by saying, can you help me clean my room? In my perspective, I'll be offended. Why would you help me clean my room? Why would I help you clean my room and not to assist me to clean my room? So let us give ownership to the younger people. Because if we want to see the better world, if we want to improve, if you are thinking of Dar es Salaam being a great city, we might start thinking about that dream, but these young people are going to make it a reality and live on it. They are going to be asked about their kids, with their kids, about what happened with this city. We might not have chance to be asked about what is happening in this city 50 years to come, but they are going to be here more longer than us. So let us, in our home, in our families again, look into kids as our primary partners, not as the beneficiaries who are there for us to give them, to feed them, to just make sure they are sleeping. Let us make sure that kids have their opinion, not just their opinion, they are making decisions by themselves. When they are going to school, let us make sure that kids have everyday aspiration to what they are doing every day. Let us help them build that aspiration. Let us not just work with them and inflict or impose things that we think or our dreams in them. So thank you so much for listening. Asante. Any question?
Hi, thank you so much. That was a really interesting and moving presentation. I'm sure you've heard this as well, but one thing I've heard a lot from parents is that they'll say, why should I do that? Because I wasn't raised like that and it hasn't done me any harm. So what is your response to those kind of parents when it comes to the issue of nurturing?
Okay. So I think is wrong thinking that what I went through is the same thing that my kids should go through. Because the reason I'm working hard is because I want my kids and my life, the life of the other people who are coming, not to be the same as my life. So I think parents should be aware that, first, if they want, when they are older, someone to take care of them, then they should not make their kids to go through the same thing. Because if your kids go through the same challenge, if you walk to school and you want your kids also to walk to school, there's no progress and development happening there. You are trying to go backward to the 50 years or 20 years when you are growing. So my reaction to that is, I think we should change our perspective and we should look into kids as the people who can utilize their full potential and support them to enrich their potential, realize themselves who they are and who they want to become. We should be helping them answering these two questions, who I am and who do I want to be. And that question, regardless their age, these kids are always wondering who they are. And they are always wondering, what is my position in this table? And that position is defined on the way you give them power in their hands, in the way you perceive what they say. If they are playing and you are perceiving they are dumb, obviously they're going to look into themselves and lose confidence. If you look into our country, let's say Tanzania, you have 60-something% of graduates who are ill-prepared to the job market. The problem is not our education system. That is just small part of the problem. The big problem is how are we raising them in our dinner table? We always want them to go through the same experience we went through, and that is not changing things. So I think the perspective should be a little bit different by looking to the kids as the potential and as the people who can have the privilege and the privilege of enjoying the things we didn't enjoy. Another question.
Hi, my name is Roland, and I was very interested in your talk. And you used an analogy when you were trying to let us give the kids an opportunity to think for themselves. Mm-hmm. I would like you to go to the end of that analogy, because I don't know how I'll finish it. The one where this kid, you're trying to make him maybe not go eat at the neighbor's place.
Yes, yes.
Now, you gave him the opportunity to ask. You asked him, would you like to be starved, or would you want someone to eat your food? And he says no. I want you to go to the end when he says yes, when he doesn't mind. How would you go about that? I would just like to know how you do that.
Okay, so still at that point, if it was me, I'll still be giving that kid an opportunity of why. So go further and ask them the question of why and help them understand. Instead of just saying, because even when he says why, will you ask him a question? If you feel you have not been fulfilled with your food, what will you do? So, of course, there's an opportunity of teaching him the concept of sharing and loving, but you are also wanting to teach them the concept of being rational. You don't just want them to go and eat. You want them to have a decision. The power you are giving them is the power to make a decision, the power to analyze. And I believe that young people, they do analyze. When I was in the street, I used to have my small gypsy place, and the Sunday school kids and nursery school kids will come and spend time to help me clean so that we go and sing together. So you see, they had an understanding that I have my own responsibility. Despite that, I want to go and sing with them. And they would come and help me finish my stuff and then go pray with them. And I would allow them to do that. So you see, they are not irresponsible. They are very responsible beings. The point I was trying to emphasize there is give them an opportunity to make a decision. Don't just impose the concept and the idea into them. Because you might be raising kids with hate because you always told them, don't do this to your neighbor's house, don't do this. Despite of that, have a conversation and arrive to the conclusion with them together.
Asante, mimi naitwa Diana. Kitu kimoja hapo ulichosema, how to build the nature to our kids first, to understand the kids. Mm-hmm. What indicator you can know that now I understand my kids based on their needs, based on their support they want. So that to nature based on what they okay. Like your needs. So
number one is your relationship, how is improved, that defines how you understand the kids. If your kids can be freely express you and tell you anything that is in their mind, at that point it means they understand that you understand them. And I'll give you an example here is, if kids have a bad things happening in their life, or they have done a bad thing, do they come to you straightforward and say, Mom, I have broken the grass in the kitchen? Or do they try to hide before saying that? At that point, it means you are not understanding them, because they assume that you as an adult, if you broke the grass, you will not beat yourself, isn't it? Because you understand yourself the reason it got broken. But when a kid breaks it and you beat them, it means you are not understanding that they are also like you. They can make that mistake. So one indicator is, how are your kids freely coming to you in terms of everything? I mean, like, can your kids tell you anything that is happening in your life? If there's barriers around that, that means you are not yet at the point of understanding your kids better.
Thank you so much. My name is Raphael. I would like to know if it's possible to really bring into practical these issues to young people who have missed this opportunity when they were young. I know it's very practical to bring up a young girl to be questioning or to be reasoning in issues that they are doing. But what if that kid did not get that opportunity and now is a young person? Is there any way we can deal with that person, putting in mind that they are already victims of the traps that their parents got into when they were young?
Of course, you can, and there are different strategies, and you can do different activities. Back in our organization, Bridge for Change, one thing that we do is a space for young people to come. We don't want young people who have complete idea necessarily to come to our space. Even if they don't nothing, they don't know who they are, we want to have conversation with them. We don't want to assume that because they cannot tell us what they want, it doesn't mean they don't have ideas. Even young people who have missed the opportunity of getting good nurturing, still they have some ideas in their head. They know what is good and what is bad. They know what they want in life. What they miss is that confidence and the idea that I can stand out. When young people are not asking questions, by the way, it doesn't mean they don't have question. It's just, if one day I asked if in our dinner table when we go back at our home, how many times can kid ask us a genuine question? Take away the question about like what food are we eating? If you are building a house, can your kids ask you a question, why are you building that house in that place? And would you take them as, not as a young person asking you, but as a human who are asking you, who are complete, people who you are equal with you? So if you ask me, how do we nurture young people who have missed an opportunity, who are in troubles, I would say we should create a platform for them to express themselves. And we should build a relationship and try to seek to understand them. I missed an opportunity of growing in a happy family. But I got an opportunity from the community that had a platform to listen and to engage with me. If I had to tell you people who have encouraged me today to be a degree holder and to be graduate and with studies and with what I do, I'll tell you, those people who give their time and listen to, even the time when I used to say, even the time when I was talking ideas that does not make sense, they still paid attention and listened. Those are the people who provided that confidence in me that today I have. So give them opportunity. Listen to them. Interact with them. Don't assume they are ignorant because they have missed the opportunity. They are just lacking the platform and the confidence to stand out.
I'm going to ask the last question. So, Ochek, when you were telling your story, you mentioned that you worked as a houseboy. Mm-hmm. And for many of us who live in East Africa, especially in Tanzania, as well as in Kenya, as Thomas mentioned, you know, a lot of child rearing and caregiving is done by house help, house managers, dada, kaka, and such forth, right? And in many ways, they don't always have the best quote-unquote reputation, right? There's a lot of just like negative stereotypes and attachments around house help, even though we do really, really need them. You know, many of us would not be able to work, would not be able to do the things we do without them. So given your own experiences, as well as just the space that you work in, what are some of the challenges that you have, what are some of the challenges that you think that people who are caregivers, who are living caregivers, house helps, house managers face when it comes to caregiving? Yeah, and how can the people here and just the larger ecosystem start to have more maybe empathy and support for the people that raise our children oftentimes?
Okay. Thank you for the question. First, caregivers or dadawakazi, they have their own dreams. They have the things they care about. They also want good life as you. They normally want to enjoy their work as you are enjoying your work. When I was a housekeeping or houseboy, I had a responsibility of feeding the kids at the house, and I enjoyed doing that. I had a responsibility of taking care of kids of at least 1.5 years, and I worked for 2 years. It means until she's very much grown up, I was still with them. But the challenge that you face at that point is when people look at you as nothing, as just, they can just ignore and assume you are not there. But at the end of the day, they want you to be very responsible and make sure that everyone is safe, kids are safe, but at the same time, they are ignoring your presence. You want, with your caregiver, you want people who you are working with to listen to you, to engage with you as, of course, you have to understand your position in the family setting and about your role in that family. But at the end of the day, they should be also understanding the vision and the purpose of this family. what do the father or mother of this family want to happen in the family should be very well understood by the person who is taking care of your kids. Otherwise, you're going to be having this conversation, and when you are out, your caregiver is going to be doing the opposite. And I know that caregivers have a bad reputation, but this bad reputation is not the bad reputation of caregivers. It's bad reputation of the families that we are in. They are also part of family. So the way you treat them is the result. You know, when you treat me badly, the revenge can easily very grow from this caregiver. And who do they have power in? So you have to be aware that if you are doing bad thing to your caregivers, you are creating a bad situation for your kids, because the power relation for them is that way. So my family where I was working, the family I was working for, they were a very good family in terms, the father and the mother were very good. They were able to give me that freedom and tell me, help these kids become good people. And at that point, I was able to interact with the kids, and I have good relation with those kids up to date. They would call me several times and they would talk. And they were also courageous to me, telling me, Ochek, you are a great person, you're going to become someone. So it has to be about building relationship, about improving life. Don't take them as people who have missed the opportunity and who have lost in life. They haven't lost in life. When I told him my father's house, that I want to go back to school, he didn't answer me. And then a few days he came and he said, you know, when an ignorant person tells me an ignorant thing, I don't listen. But to me, that was like, okay, I thought I was part of the family. I thought I'm growing also. So allow them also to grow. Don't let them, they are not going to end up, they might end doing that, but it doesn't mean they will not be prosperity. They will not succeed in life. Even if you're a caregiver, you can still be a great person. So let us give them an opportunity of becoming great, and let us look into them as people who have an opportunity of being someone, not just because they are working as a caregiver, they have lost an opportunity. And in that point, they will value their work. They will see their work as very important. Not you pretend to the work is important, but themselves, they will see the importance of what they do every day. Thank you so much.